Sharks, everybody. We're super excited to have Herbert. He's the CEO of Semarchy, a master data management solution. And of course, we've got Arkady Kleyner and Rich Hathaway on with us. Super excited to have them with us as well, as usual. So we want to dive in with TH and ask our typical question, which is, what does the world look like without Semarchy? If it didn't exist as a solution, what problems would surface? What are the pains that would get opened for organizations?
Yeah, I think thanks, Jared. I appreciate it, and thank you for inviting me here. This is great to spend some time with you guys chatting about this. But I think the pain comes from the fact that we live in a very data-driven world these days, right? And the problems around the quality, reliability, accuracy, consistency of data have always existed. They're not new. They've been there, but they've really been accelerated and exacerbated by all the shift in where the world's going. More data, more disparate technologies and systems inside the enterprise, and all of that. So, where we would be without Semarchy is not really able to address those types of problems in a timely manner, and especially in a manner that suits the needs of the business to continue doing what they need to do, right? So the execution part of the business is heavily impacted. What you made the introduction around Semarchy as a master data management platform, and that's an accurate one. We are at the core a master data management platform, but we're also, what we've had a vision of right from the start was to be a data hub. And nowadays, a lot of people are, throwing around the term data fabric, which is kind of this concept around a mesh of interconnected data across all of your applications and systems, and business needs. And that's really the problem that Semarchy had attacked from the beginning. And without being able to do that, you have a bunch of data silos with varying types of information and various stages of accuracy and consistency. And it really hurts. What business impact of that depends on each customer, but it's a problem, right?
Yeah, and I've almost because in the YouTube channel that we have, I kept getting questions like, but what really is this what's the problem? I ended up having to create a video that literally stepped through an order and the order, how it might how it might appear in this system with a customer name of certain type versus the data that might appear in the call center. And it's the same customer, it's the same person, but they have these small attributes that are different from each other. Could be a spelling difference. Maybe the call center rep didn't know how to spell the last name perfectly, all these little small instances. And then the truth is, when you go into these organizations, you realize it's not just those two instances. There's 70 instances of this person, and they're living in 70 different systems.
Absolutely. It's really common to have, 2x or 3x type of disparate personalities, personas, and even products and things like that. You'd be surprised because suppliers change their product numbering or whatever it is, and their reference IDs. And next thing you know, you have a couple of different products in your product catalog that are actually the same, but you've now lost track of understanding, how much of this product am I really selling, because I'm selling it under two different SKUs. That doesn't work. That doesn't give you the data I want. But it's also a consumer problem. When you get into the customer domain, and really, this technology now applies to any type of data. But customers still first and foremost the biggest problem for a lot of companies. And the problem that you have is also one of what is it doing to the perception of the customer, right? When I call the company and give them my new address, they give I have an updated phone number. The one you have is no longer right. Let me update that stuff. and then a couple of months later, I call a different part of the organization or go into the branch or the retail location, and they still have my wrong information, or they're still sending information, mail to my old address. And it's like,
Yeah.
wait a second, I already gave you this information. Why is this not, why is this such a big problem? So it's little things like that, right?
Yep.
But all the way through any kind of other problem around the inconsistency of data.
And you can tell when it's a problem because my wife and I like to go on cruises, and certain cruise lines will send us a mailer and then another mailer and then another mailer, and it's the same mail, Yeah. It's like, okay, guys, I'm only one person.
Yeah, absolutely. And that happens over and over again. We've actually had customers where the ROI for the solution was just eliminating the duplication of marketing costs, because we didn't know that this person was really one person. If you're sending 3 times as much mail as you need to for doing duplication, that's an expensive proposition over time.
Right.
So absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. The data, this is one of those problems that I typically, when I'm talking with someone that's kind of new to this, they think that there's some kind of pixie dust that takes care of this.
Yeah.
And that somehow these systems in the back end of an organization know about each other. But no, there's no knowledge of these. Oracle has no idea that Salesforce.com is being used, and they don't have a recognition of each other's systems. So Semarchy is the organization that can couple these together in a meaningful way, and that's what really the aha moment around this sort of topic is one of those ones you almost have to get into the process for.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's this problem's been around for a long time, right? That's why MDM was originally invented or coined as a term, at least. And the traditional ask has always been from the business to say, hey, IT, why can't you fix my data, right? Go fix my data. I got all this information and it's bad, and I got duplicates, and I got missing information and all of that. Go fix it, right? Like this is to the business, this is a technology problem. And the reality of it is that when you apply automation and rules and machine learning and whatever, you can only solve so much, right? And the problem is also in the way that the real user uses the applications. And I actually came from the ERP and CRM space, right? So, and I saw this firsthand. If you implement your CRM and you don't put a field there for information X, that the user Y wants to record in the system, they're going to start bastardizing the fields that you have. They're going to start putting, address line 2 is a free text field. I could put a comment there.
I could put anything I want in there.
Exactly. And so then that information comes to IT, and of course, okay, what do I do with that? There's no real automated way, because every user does something different, right? They just bastardize the way that they use it. And that's really the idea behind, okay, you're lacking rules in your front-end systems, but because those systems are changing so frequently, you have so many of them, it's just not feasible, right? So centralizing and standardizing how that's done is step number one. Building a set of rules about, how, what data should exist where, what's the appropriate format, what should it look like, and also enriching that data in an automated fashion. Absolutely possible, right? There's a lot of enrichment sources out there, and that's the first step, and that's something that we enable right from the start. But then the real way to get to excellent data is also to federate those other problems back to the business user, right?
Absolutely.
Let the business user take control of fixing their information. Hey, I don't know where this information belongs. You put in address field number 2, but you go tell me, and you fix it. And when you fix it here inside of the Semarchy XDM Intelligent Data Hub, it's going to be correct in all of your peripheral applications that are connected into that data hub, right? We then push that data out, that information out, corrected everywhere. The consumer, has a consistent view no matter who they call and which system and application they're using. The information is going to be accurate, and it just improves your customer satisfaction. It improves the outcomes. The data scientists are happy.
Yep.
Everybody's happy, right? Like it's the complete value chain as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, I have a video titled "What is Data Governance?" and at the very outset of the video, I say, I try to help business people understand that the data engineers do not know what the purpose of the data is, and I said it's almost akin to you expensing a laptop to your organization and the accounting person reaching out to you and saying, "Hey, what is this $2,000 expense for?" And you going back to the accounting team and saying, "Hey, you're the monies guy, you're the money people, you figure it out." They don't know what the purchase is. They don't know what the event is. And the data people just, they can try and derive what you're thinking, but they don't actually know, what the data represents. So having something that can give a access point to the business so they can say, this is what this data means is super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. There has to be collaboration there. And you kind of mentioned one of the magic words, and it's really around the data governance as well as the data management and all of that. And that's one of the things that was missing in the historical sense with the platform. So, of course, when this kind of area developed over the years, some 20 years ago, it was, okay, there's a master data management problem, right? Which is where we're trying to standardize and consolidate data and deduplicate and things like that. And there's other data quality issues. And oh, by the way, there's also this area called data governance where we're defining a consistent meaning of the information, right? What is this for? What is meant to be here? Why? What does something like revenue or customer type mean? Because it means something different to every person. I've actually been in conversations with large customers in the past where they spent on the order of magnitude of a few months discussing what is a customer, right? And think about that, right? And that may sound ludicrous, but okay, put yourself inside of a large financial services organization with many different types of banking and investment and asset management and so on. And is a customer somebody who has an account? Is it somebody who has made an application? Is it somebody who's been to our website? Is it somebody who who's talking to a banker? Whatever it is, right? Like that actually is really complicated, and those definitions start to matter very much. If you really think about it, they matter a whole lot. Right. And this is part of the problem with the traditional data management approach, is that the traditional vendors, of course, partially because historically of the way the applications grew, and partially because there was money to be made, at least in my perspective, they said, okay, I'll sell you a data governance application, and then I'll sell you a data quality application, and then I'll sell you a master data application for customer data. Oh, and then I'll sell you a product information management solution and a reference data management solution, right? And it was this, and it's become so pervasive that you now have to buy 10 different tools to solve one cohesive problem, right?
Right.
And that's really I think the vision and the future in our space, and we're really certain about this, that all this information has to live together and be interrelated. Relationships have to be built. What we call augmented MDM, which is kind of the relationship side between different types of data in your organization. But you also have to collaboratively govern that information. So if you don't attach a meaning and a definition and some rules consistently to any field of data, right, then it's likely to be misused and misunderstood, and that's not okay, right? Shocker.
Well, and one of the things in explaining that, one of the things I've said in the past is, we don't want to manually do this stuff, and you can't ask for this stuff to not be manual and not have descriptions for what this stuff actually is that are consistent. So having these arguments about, what is a customer? Well, yeah, it really matters because we have to automate processes around it, and not having that automation in place is what we're trying to get out of. And so the definition of what actually is that we're going to have a real name for as a customer. Now that what that also leads to is a lot of political jostling, like who's going to get, the right definition. And so the data governance programs, I've noticed, they're a lot about politics. They're a lot about, decision hierarchies and who gets to decide tie breaks and all this stuff about, how decisions are going to be made about the data.
Right.
So,
well, and it's not, but that's exactly the point, right? Is that you should define that. Who does own this definition? Who does own, the meaning of the customer per se? And that's the combination of that. If you look at the master data by itself or the data governance by itself, that doesn't form a complete picture that really solves the problem. So that's why we've built everything into one platform, where alongside the master data, there's the data governance and the other metadata, even around not just what is the definition of customer and revenue and things like that, but also who owns it, who's responsible for this, right? And each and every field can roll up to a different person, even within a certain set, and it's partially the reason why the programs. We have a lot of customers that come to us and they're interested in master data management, and they come back and they say, well, what we're really thinking about doing is we're thinking about putting data governance in place first. And what we say back to them is like, that's great. You're going to spend a lot of money. You're going to get some interesting information out of it, but you're not actually going to get any actionable results out of it, right? You're not actually going to get business outcomes that move the needle for the organization, because unless you implement those rules and that governance across the organization at the same time, you're not making any change at all, right? You're just sitting in a room and talk is cheap type of thing. It doesn't matter how well documented it is. Who's going to follow it? When I get into Salesforce, am I going to go and look up what this means and follow it? No. If I put something in place that enforces those rules and policies and those decisions and informs the business user about the meanings and things like that, now I've got something, right? And that's why the way that our platform is designed is a bottoms-up approach, very data-driven. You can take a minimal set of data first and implement it in the platform, and implement the master data and data quality, discovery, data governance, metadata management part for that piece only, side by side, so that it's immediately effective, immediately gives business value back to the customer. And that's huge, not just because you get very rapid time to value, but it's also huge because the Achilles heel of this technology in the past has always been that it's somewhat viewed as nice to have, right? Am I going to be able to run my business without a CRM or an ERP or data integration? Probably not, right? Am I going to be able to run my business without master data management, data governance? Sure, right? Will it be effective? No, but you can do it, and it's done all the time. Nobody worries about data on day one when they're starting a business,
right?
But so what that means is that unless you can demonstrate ROI and value in a very short time, somebody who's holding the checkbook or the budget is going to say, what is this doing for me? Why do I keep writing these big checks? It won't work. It'll fall apart, right? You'll have best intentions. You pick a nice platform, you start implementing it, and after you've spent $1 million, somebody's going to say, what am I getting?
What are we doing with this?
Oh, wait a second. No, you don't have any KPIs or metrics on that yet?
Right.
Okay, out of here, right? Strike that from next year's budget, and we're doing something else. And we've really addressed that problem. We're really able to get something going in a 12-week time scale. We tell our customers, if you don't have something up and running in 12 weeks, you're probably missing the point or over-engineering the solution from the start. You can go from there, right? Like that's not the end game. That's the first step on the journey. But if that first step is able to generate some sort of value for the business, and somebody's going to say, hey, this has improved X, right? Raise my hand. This is making a positive impact on me, my business, the financial outcomes, the goals of the company, then you have an argument to continue the journey. So super essential. And, obviously some of our really large clients that have comprehensive multi-domain data management problems, they're going to take a little bit longer, but really the idea is, hey, get something up and running quick. And you can't do that very effectively, with
we really appreciate that a lot.
Jared has heard me. Sorry, Jared, go ahead.
No, please.
Jared has heard me talk about the Intricity logo and sort of the two words below it, simplifying complexity. 15 years ago, we had no clue how relevant it will become year after year after year. And this is a perfect example of that, because I think a lot of organizations embark on boiling the ocean, especially when it comes to solving data governance or solving master data or solving for a particular use case that they've got, and they want to go extremely deep and wide. And I think that's the thing that we've seen with Semarchy is the ability. First of all, the GUI is designed for normal people to be able to interact with it. With the experience is such that you need to be, it's like Gmail. It's there isn't anything complicated about it. But also, don't boil the ocean. Start small. Do things that you can demonstrate in 30, 60, 90 days where you can demonstrate success, because big bang is difficult. People forget why they got started with it. And that's the thing that, if you want to focus on customer, maybe to pick two systems that are your core systems, or if you focused on product, focus on your PLM system, focus on those things where you can identify success and still remember what success looks like by the time you get done.
Exactly. And to a certain degree, Arkady, that boil the ocean approach in the past was also driven based on the way the platforms were designed, right? Because
that's right.
When you came in and you did, a project with kind of the legacy mega vendors, the IBM, Oracle, SAP, Informatica type of solutions, you had to come in with a future state architecture. You had to come in with a very comprehensive scope and requirements around what you were trying to implement, and because it was a point solution, right? And this was always the case, in the early 2000s, when you're implementing enterprise software, ERP, CRM, the same way. You had to just do it all up front. You had to know what you were building, then go build it, then go test it, then deploy it, and a year or two later, if you're lucky, you were going to production with something that worked. But that doesn't work anymore, right? And it shouldn't. I mean, number one, aforementioned reasons about getting value and keeping the money going, but also the idea that there's too much change in the world today that goes too fast. So by the time you get 2 years into a quote unquote big bang implementation, half the rules have changed. Half the things that you were trying to accomplish have changed. Oh, I've acquired 3 more companies. There's a whole bunch more ERPs and systems I have to now implement. Right. How does that work? You have to go agile. If you don't go agile, you're not keeping up with the modern world.
Exactly. And out of all the industries, this is one that gets stuck in analysis paralysis, like big time.
Absolutely.
I remember in the early years of Informatica's acquisition of, I forgot their name.
Cyprian.
Yeah. I mean, the analysis paralysis was just endless. And partially because the initial spend was so high entering in,
right.
And so the companies were just analyzing endlessly, and that their own deals wouldn't close because of that. Being able to start small, be agile, grow with the solution, makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
The other is, we use Pareto a lot to talk about, specific business issues. That's an MDM Cap, by the way, data governance Cap. The thing that we often talk about is, 80% of our customers need an MDM solution, but there is this thing where we do find maybe 20, maybe 10% of our customers where they do have a single system that is a system of record they're just missing the process. They're missing the process steps that are required. So that's the other side of it. Not everybody is a perfect fit. 90%, maybe 80% do have a significant issue. The example you gave is company acquisitions. You're bringing in multiple places where customer data exists, product data exists. I keep thinking, Jared, and you remember who this was, but there was we've got a chemical manufacturer, and everything was in JD Edwards. That was their system of record, and it was
nothing else
important to
existed.
also. Exactly. And so it was more of a process problem.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, folks, IT folks especially, sometimes focus on solving it with big bang approaches. And sometimes those things fail just because that's not the right thing to do as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So TH, tell us about how Semarchy got started. Like its early inception.
Sure.
Give me those early years and speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, there was a predecessor company for Semarchy, which was a company called Synopsys that existed in the late 90s and 2000s. And they were the company that originally coined the term ELT. So you're probably
I remember Synopsys. That now that you mentioned it, I'm like, oh, didn't they get acquired by Oracle at some point?
They did get acquired by Oracle, exactly. So they were acquired by Oracle. So that product is actually still available today. It's called Oracle Data Integrator, and the whole team from Synopsys ended up working at Oracle. And after they exited there a few years later, the CTO of Synopsys, a gentleman named Salah Kamel, came up with the idea, or he had seen in the process of building that ELT and working with Oracle and working with these mythical, highly integrated Fusion applications that were supposed to be around at that point, right? The Fusion concept started in the early 2000s, and with like the Semarchy, the Siebel acquisition, PeopleSoft, and all that, and that I think gave the idea around, there are going to be all these applications that have their own data store, and that we've now successfully integrated with our ELT product. But the problem now is really around the governance and management of that data. So he actually designed and implemented the first data hub in 2011, which is when Semarchy got to start. So we're just celebrating our 10-year anniversary. And interestingly enough, there was another side of Synopsys, another team from Synopsys that went on to build kind of a second generation, data integration technology that was based on some of the successes of the Synopsys platform. But they also felt like this needed to be more business user friendly and all of that. We've on Monday we'll be announcing that we've acquired that company. So we've just acquired that data integration technology to complement our data management solution. But we've grown, from the start with the same vision, and the vision was around a data hub technology that combines all of these disparate data, anything that starts with data governance, data quality, data catalog, data management, that those things really all belong together. Even data integration, which is why we've just acquired that company. But putting that all together and then making it agile, flexible, and business user focused, right? What is the business problem I'm trying to solve? And that was the idea right from the start, because what they recognized, what Salah recognized, and the co-founders back then is that the future was going to be very business user centric. Everybody's going to be using applications all day long in their job, and there's going to be a massive data problem because all these applications are going to be separate, and they're not going to have a consistent view of information. So that was really the inception of the organization. And I'm proud to say that 10 years later, that vision is, I think, number one, we've delivered quite well on that vision, but I'm also confident that we're still on that same path. We actually haven't changed the idea of what we're trying to accomplish in this space. The terminology is changing some, and I mean, 10 years ago, people called us an intelligent MDM platform, or 6 years ago, And then, we really called it a data hub, and that terminology kind of came up, became commonplace. But and we're still a data hub today, right? And
Sure.
and our competition, they're jumping on the data fabric bandwagon or
Yep.
whatever hype is out there. But we've had a consistent vision,
Yep.
and while for example, our platform is certainly a component of a data fabric architecture.
Mhm.
It's not, there is no such thing as a data fabric product, right? So,
Yeah.
so
exactly.
we really, I think we've done a really good job of holding firm on what we are here to do.
Right.
And we've executed well on that, and that's why customers are coming to Semarchy. So very, very successful, very effective, because they're consistent. We're steady as she goes, steering the ship across the ocean here.
And as you got kind of exposure to Semarchy and kind of came within the organization and whatnot, how did you know that you had something special there? Like, there's I've had this moment with different scenarios, and I'm like, man, this really is something special. Like, what was that for you?
Well, I spent the previous 10, 15 years with the Oracle's, IBM, and Informatica kind of technologies, and when with the advent of cloud, it became really clear to me that the world was going to change even more dramatically than any of us had expected, right? Because kind of a little bit like you said a minute ago, what was easier back then was at least the data lived in one or two kind of core systems, right? You had your ERP or CRM; those were that's where all of your data was. All of your customer information lived in a CRM. Siebel, I worked for Siebel for 6 years. It was, all your data was there. So that makes the problem a lot easier, because yes, you could put validation rules and things like that into the front end. But then with the cloud shift and the advent of technologies from ranging from Salesforce to you name it, right? Like nowadays there's thousands of them. It was really clear that the data was just going to be scattered like a cup full of marbles on the floor. And how do you gather those up, right?
Right.
And that, so I actually personally recognized that trend. It took a sabbatical, took a step back from my career, and said, where do I want to be? And I really decided that I wanted to work with one of the modern technologies in this space. And that's actually how I came across Semarchy. So I handpicked 3 vendors. One of them was obviously Semarchy, that I thought were doing the right thing, at that point. They were moving in the right direction, had the right vision. And I very carefully evaluated those technology platforms. This is 4 years ago. And I said, which one is the best, in terms of the current technology and the vision of where it's going to go.
Right.
Deep conversations. I spent much time with Sala. And I really came out thinking that Semarchy was the best combination of things that I thought mattered. And what it needed was, what we had was a really robust technology foundation, a great platform, great architecture, very simple, very agile. And what we needed to do is find a better way of kind of convincing the world about how to use it, and explaining the technology, doing a better job of explaining the technology, building a better business model that would allow us to grow faster. And by grow faster, I don't mean just revenue, but the reason why we needed that different business model was to be able to focus on continuing to innovate and evolve the platform, which is what we've been doing ever since then. And that's really, we made a shift to a subscription model, which is the way the world is going. We made sure that we supported all of the commonplace technologies, underlying technologies that are out there. We originally, the platform was based, when I came in, the tool only supported Oracle database. We now support Oracle Postgres and SQL Server, including the cloud flavors. We can run hybrid, on-premise, cloud, public cloud, private cloud, you name it. It can really be deployed anywhere, and including a hybrid mode. And we decoupled that from the licensing model, so you can buy a subscription to our technology and put it on-premise. That's perfectly fine. all of those types of things. And it's really made the business, the business model work in such a way that we're able to keep up with the demand, the growth, as well as the innovation. Because one thing we do is every single year we put something major out, that really helps build on the capabilities of this space, and the world needs that. Right. There's, a few years ago, Kafka streaming didn't exist, and now everybody wants to stream data. Right. Okay, let's build that into the platform. Obviously, there are shifts in technology from SOAP to REST and all of that kind of stuff, and underlying platforms. We have to keep up with all of that and innovate at the same time. That's a fairly hungry beast, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking with an analyst. This is about a year ago. And they were asking, like, well, what couldn't someone just kind of spring up out of nowhere and do this MDM thing? And I was like, look, I mean, you have to be able to support such a broad brush of application types, because remember, it's the application. It's it wasn't until we kind of got through that full conversation, he was like, wow, okay, so really, it's just going to be a core set of companies that could really pull this off successfully. And that is true. I mean, being able to actually touch that many applications, touch that many interfaces, and actually do it successfully it's not a small thing at all.
No, absolutely. And I think that the key for us is that the automation is super important, right? The challenge, and like I said, I worked for Siebel for 6.5 years until they got acquired by Oracle, and the problem that we had, and that customers that are still with Siebel platform today have, is that it becomes such a highly customized system, right? Everything is kind of ultimately coded in some way, E script or VB script or whatever it is,
right?
It's in there, and that's kind of the way that a lot of legacy platforms work, and that's the devil, right? That's the enemy here. If you start going down that path, it's not going to work. So what we really successfully addressed in the XDM platform is the automation of it. That there's no code. This has been no code for a long time. It's a lot of configuration switches, and then we generate an application, and exactly that point of the automation controls the application. So we actually, as I said earlier, it's a data-driven technology. You build a data model, and we build the application, not you. We build it. The tool builds the application for you based on the rules and the metadata that you define. And what that allows you to do is that as you change your metadata and your rules, you change your data model, you evolve the application. The tool takes care of generating a brand new, shiny new, not customized application that sits on top of what you've built, and it handles all of the migration, of the underlying data from the structure A to structure B, keeps that integrity intact and all of that, right? Those are all the things that when you're 20 years, 10 or 20 years into customizing a solution, it no longer is sustainable, because nobody knows anymore what this code does and why it's there and how to fix it. And we built that right from the start, right? That's how the platform was designed. And I think that's the future, right? The ability of the technology to survive almost any kind of change.
Right.
We've literally never had to go to a customer. We have 250 customers now, and had to say, oh, you need to re-implement, right? So that because something's changed, or the platform can't do that, and upgrades and things like that, they have to be super fast. They have to be super efficient and in place, and you just have to be able to do those things effectively. So that automation is the hard part, right? If you are manually building this, and you're manually building a rule set to do some of what the Semarchy XDM platform does, that's possible. Absolutely. Now try maintaining that, right?
Right.
I would give a quick example, because we have a customer that deals with a lot of education data. All of the education data for all of us sitting here anybody who's gone to a school or university in the United States, your data is sitting, in a central system that maintains those transcripts and enrollment records and things like that. And that got to be one of those customized beasts. They had over 1,000 match rules in that system.
Wow.
Okay, go try and figure out exactly what the outcome of that's going to be when you start. And if you think about that, you're talking about the one of the simplest use cases, right? Which is persons with matching with 6 fields of information, name, address, phone number, maybe if you're lucky, you have an ID number of some sort. And with that information, they still had 1,000 permutations of match rules. We implemented the Semarchy solution. They're now achieving better results than before with 22 match rules that cover all different scenarios about how to match personas together. Because when you go to their API and want to retrieve your future employee or retrieve your transcripts, you can find all of the information rapidly with one consistent set. So that's where people get, people just don't understand how complex it gets, how quickly it gets complex unless you manage it appropriately, right?
Yeah. And again, much of this is about complexity. If you think about organizations who might be on a cloud journey or as part of their digital transformation journey, Semarchy acts as an important component of that, because if you're digitally transforming your organization, it means that more and more of your assets are now being managed by complex systems. And the idea of one view of customer, everyone talks about customer journey, customer 360, product 360. If you can't understand that data, if you haven't mastered it, it's very difficult to be able to get any sort of value out of this. The other side of this is, as part of the digital transformation journey, folks talk about no code, low code. And I think you touched on that a few minutes ago. I think that's another big area. It's configuration driven rather than application development driven.
Absolutely. Everything, all the things inside the application, the workflows, the UIs, even the data model, it's drag and drop configuration. And, that creates a level of consistency. It also creates a simplicity of the technology for the designers that are configuring the solution for our customers. This does not require any proprietary skill sets. You do not have to go and learn a whole new language or technology in order to be able to do this. It's very straightforward to learn and understand the technology. And a lot of times customers come and say, how many Semarchy experts do I need to implement this? And we say, you need like 1 or 2. What you really need is experts who can understand your business, the needs of the business as they apply to, as the data applies to that business. Those super users that can explain how data is being used, why it's being used, what the rules need to be, and can drive some of the consistency around the definitions. And those folks really, we put them through our 3-day training, which is 5 days virtual training right now, but 3 days is really what it takes to train on the solution. And they can understand how the technology works. So we take business analysts, data stewards, people like that through the training, because even the config that includes like installation, configuration of the software, because it's at that level right now. And that's something where we're continuously pushing more and more towards the layman, so to speak, being able to understand and interact at that level.
We've had the discussion a number of times that if we can take and enable the technologies to be usable by the business users instead of the other way around, where our developers have to know the business. If we can get the business users to be able to use the technologies to make a difference, it's so much better. We become much more successful, much faster.
Yeah, and I can't emphasize enough how much what a big difference that is to be able to learn it that quickly, because it definitely has not been the case with other data governance tooling. I mean, most data governance tooling, there are so many pieces that you've got to get your head around and it's not to say that, there's interfacing with other applications. There's other things that have to occur, of course, but to not have to worry about the core components because they're straightforward enough to implement. They're learnable. That's a big difference. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, but you mentioned one interesting point there. I think that the harder part around implementing, the technology at this point for us, we've recognized the fact that the pain point for our customers is really around the integration with the systems as well, and having control of those integrations, right? Because a lot of large companies they have ESB and ETL and all of that lovely stuff sitting around somewhere. But getting access to those technologies as they're trying to accelerate the deployment of the intelligent data hub, how quickly can I build those integrations to other places, or what pre-built connectors do I have, and things like that. And oftentimes they have to go to some shared services or some group that knows how to use. Let's say they have ODI, right? To use that and access those skills, and they have to get in the queue of all the other applications and systems in the company that are trying to do some implementation. So that's why we've really decided to go down the path of including the comprehensive data integration technology alongside, because now you have 70 pre-built connectors to Salesforce and SAP and all those wonderful things that are out there, and you have the ability to build ETL, ELT, API-based integration, streaming, Snowflake, Hadoop, whatever it is. Like you can interact with all those platforms, also centrally controlled through our no-code, low-code, configuration tool. So, by the end of the year, we'll have that fully integrated and up and running. It's available now, but we have it. We're still working a little bit on integrating that fully with the data hub, and but it's going to be game changing, because that's what's really going to allow you to get to in 12 weeks I'm up and running, extracting data.
The idea there is that you could maybe have like a pre-built extraction from those systems and then have it populate your hub.
Effectively, yeah. I mean, it has multiple benefits. One is that you have full control of the integration, right? So hey, how can I get data out of system X? Having a connector or having the ability to just ETL data out of a source system very quickly. Again, with a designer friendly no code application. There's no it's not traditional data integration. Sure. It allows you to get that data into Semarchy quickly. That's what you need to be able to get going, right? The first thing you really have to do is discover the information that you're trying to master, and then integrate it in somewhere, like build a data model, integrate it in there, and now you start playing with that data, create the rules on top of it, create the UI on top of it, do those kind of conference room pilots with the business to look at how would I interact with this data, how do I author and edit and manage and make decisions around that data, the data stewards, as well as the regular business user that we like to call them business champions with the XDM platform. And it's very important that you're able to do that kind of quickly, and again at that same scale, very lightweight and then agile, to grow over time and evolve. And another side benefit of that is that when we're ingesting that master data now, we're also ingesting metadata along with it. And metadata is kind of the forgotten stepchild. And again, a disparate discipline. A lot of vendors will sell you a data catalog solution alongside your data governance and master data management. And it's all in one in the Semarchy XDM platform. It's all of that lives in one place. And by ingesting that metadata, we can start to kind of build a data catalog for you while you're building a master data management and data quality solution.
And so, so if someone wanted to engage with Semarchy, what's the most effective way of making that happen? Do they go just straight to the Semarchy website, book a meeting, or is it what's the best engagement method with you guys?
Yeah. I mean, obviously we try to make it really easy to interact with us, and everybody has a little bit different perspective of what they want to do. So, we certainly start with the website. You'll see a big button on the website that says start. I think it says start here still, or start now. And the idea is that from there you can take you to a page where you can get a demo, you can download the software, you can get a proof of value, which is, or request a proof of value, discuss with us a proof of value, which is super effective exercise around building a Semarchy application with your use case, your data in a couple of weeks that can really demonstrate what the technology does for you. So, you know, whether you want us to demo it to you or try it yourself or have us work collaboratively to build something, you can request those things. And in all cases, you know, we'll start a little bit of a conversation, understand what you're looking for. It's a complex topic. There's a few questions that need to be asked, but we allow you to, you know, trial the software if you want. And if you want to be if you've, you know, customers out there that understand what MDM is and how this fundamentally works, we have a set of tutorials that allow you to get your first XDM application up and running in less than an hour. With,
which again is like nobody else does that.
Yeah,
it's like hard to find anybody that does anything like that.
Exactly, and we also offer SaaS solution, which is a little bit, you know, it's relatively new for us. Some customers are moving down that path. A lot of customers still aren't 100% you know, excited about the idea of handing their data over to somebody else, no longer having access to it. But you know, that's what some others do. But so we you know, that's available as well. So really, regardless of how technology savvy you are, you know, there's ways to interact with us, and we try to make it super easy, make it super accessible. We don't hide anything, you know, about our technology. The full documentation, tutorials, demos. You know, go to our YouTube channel. There's demonstrations of specific features and functions out there, and comprehensive demos. And you know, you can educate yourself pretty well. A lot of what we do is we have to educate the consumer of our software, right? There's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of unjustified fear because of past. You know, 10 years ago, you had to spend 2 years implementing and you wouldn't get anything for it, and that failed miserably and you fell on your face. So you don't want to try it again. Well, you know, give us a chance, right? That's what we ask for.
Yeah, organizations that's a very true statement. Organizations, you know, that long ago, many failed. There's so many in the MDM and data governance space. They just crashed and burned. And I think part of it is just the inability to experiment, we've been talking about today. The inability to, you know, try and not have it be $1 million project. Just try it. You know, do something small and succeed. And you know, that's one of our mantras in the data governance space is, you know, let's pick a metric that we know we can win, and let's try something small that we know we can win. You know,
absolutely.
Now,
we also, I'll mention one more thing. We have a dedicated team here that is focused on what we call client success. And you know, my definition of client success is that this is a journey, right? Regardless of how, yes, you can come to us with a very specific business problem, and we'll solve that for you quickly. But really, data management as a whole is a journey. You have to commit to, we're going to really maximize the value of all of our information. And you know, you can go slow or fast as you want. But what we have in this client success team is building that relationship with our clients, a long-term relationship similar to, let's say, a relationship banker, you know, at your financial institution, who would come and guide you along. What are the use cases you should tackle? Where's the value? Let us help you build the business case around this, because a lot of our customers, what they struggle with is not so much whether they like our technology or they need our technology. It's how to sell it to the business, how to sell it to the organization is something that's needed. And we'll actually help you with that. We have a team that does that, and we'd gladly put you in touch with them. So if you need, you know, if you kind of think you need it, but you're not sure how to sell it internally or, you know, make it stick, we're able to do that as well. And we're happy to do that. There's a lot of educational content on the website, but also we have this team that will gladly interact with you to do that.
Now, is there any question that I didn't ask that I should have asked? Oh,
I don't know. You know, I think we've spoken about a lot of things. Obviously, it bears mentioning that if you have any doubts about Semarchy, a lot of people haven't heard about Semarchy perhaps in the past. If you have any doubts about the company, I encourage you to go to the analysts, Gartner, Gigom, Forrester, those guys that are experts in the field and that rate us as a leading solution. And there's a lot of reviews out there as well. So don't be afraid to dig into it a little bit. Give us a chance, and we're happy to help you. We're confident we can.
Well, TH, this has been a great interview. It's been great to dive into this topic, which needs to resurface again. As like we said in the early days, there was a lot of it on this, and then it kind of just disappeared for a while. And this is a topic now that the cloud, people have made that transition or are getting there. We focused a lot on analytics content recently. But this is a pendulum, and it swings every 5 or so years. We go to this, huge emphasis on, analytic content, and then people, after they realize all their analyses are wrong, it moves over to data governance. So, I see that we will see a pendulum swing back to data governance. Now that things are starting to settle down into the cloud and people are starting to choose their solutions, I definitely see that we'll see that swing over. And this is definitely one of those important topics. So I appreciate you coming on with us.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And I the one change that I see in the industry, and this is even acknowledged by the analysts as well, is that, go listen to what they've been saying over the last year or two. This is no longer nice to have technology. It's no longer a luxury for you to control and manage your data, proactively. If you ignore your data, you will not be able to keep up with the modern world and the competition. Right. And that's really a good story that I would really, think about it, because it is really one of the most important assets we have, especially in the pandemic world and the world of digital that we live in today.
Yeah, unlimited compute on wrong data is not not very effective. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you, TH. And Rich, Arkady, thank you as well.
Thank you, Jared. Take care.